Well, extreme heat is gripping much of the country, and it has already been deadly for 3 kids this year, Kelly.
Yeah, on average, 38 children die every year from heat stroke inside a vehicle. And over the last 3 decades, more than 1,000 children have died in these incidents.
Now, backseat alerts on new cars could help really go a long way to help in these tragedies, but there's no requirement for these at this time.
That's right. So joining us right now to explain that is Susan Auriemma, the Vice President for Kids and Car Safety. Susan, thank you so much for joining us on this tough topic this morning. I know Congress actually ordered the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to start requiring car makers to install backseat alert systems in all the new cars. But 2.5 years later, there's still no requirement. Why is that?
Yes, we are stuck in the regulatory process, but there is direction from Congress that the DOT must pass a rule, and it would require technology in cars that would detect the presence of a living being. And that's very important because a lot of cars have a reminder system. It will alert you to check the back seat, but there's no consequence if you don't check the back seat. The technology we're waiting on, which is, as you mentioned, long overdue, the proposed rule is 1.5 years overdue, would actually alert the driver if there's a child, a pet, a vulnerable adult in the back seat of the car.
Well, we're going to back up a little bit on this for people who may be tuning in. They're not as familiar with this. Many car makers have voluntarily started adding seat alerts to new cars. That's great. That's a great step, right? But why do you need more than just those alerts?
Well, we see in more than 1/3 of the cases where children die in hot cars each year that a child is left unknowingly in a vehicle. There's a failure of the brain's memory. It doesn't have anything to do with being a good parent or a bad parent. And it's so important that this technology is there to protect every child because no parent thinks this is going to happen to them. And sadly, every year we see an average of 38 children dying.
Yeah, I mean, just last year there were 29.
Yeah.
Even one is too many, as you know. And a lot of people just don't realize or understand how a parent could possibly forget their child in the back seat. But that's really the same thought of, many parents that did tragically forget their child had until basically, we have to break this mindset that it can happen to anyone.
Yes, yeah. And in the short term, there are steps parents can take. Leave something you need at your destination, your work badge, your handbag, your computer bag in the back seat so that every time you arrive at your destination, it's automatic, it's routine that you open the back seat of the car every single time.
Are there any other tips you have? I mean, obviously, that's really the strategy to give people just the idea to check out that back seat. Are there any other reminders, especially for people who maybe you've got an older vehicle, you don't have the latest safety mechanism, so to speak? Is there any other things you could do to actually keep that pattern of awareness of checking the back seat?
Yeah, I mean, leaving something in the back seat is really key. And like you said, overcoming that mindset of this would never happen to me. And that's what happens is people don't take those steps. And I think it's really important to note also that in about 1/4 of the cases, it's children who have climbed in on their own and were unable to get out. They were playing hide and seek. They, wanted to pretend to drive like mom and dad. So if a child goes missing, just like you would search bodies of water in the surrounding area, you should be checking every single vehicle in that driveway and in all the surrounding driveways because children die every single year because they get trapped in a vehicle.
Yeah, maybe teach the kids, who are old enough anyway, to honk the horn, try to get attention if they do become trapped. And Susan, if we see a child or pet in the backseat of a car, say in a parking lot, what do you think we should do?
Always call 911 first. You want to get the authorities involved, but many states have implemented a Good Samaritan law, which means that if you feel the child or the pet or the person is in distress and you cannot wait for 911, that you can break the window without penalty. So many states do allow that, but always, always, always call 911 the first thing if you see a child in distress.
Susan Auriemma, the Vice President for Kids and Car Safety. We really appreciate the subject is an awful one. It truly is, but we really appreciate you taking time this morning, preventing as many of these as we possibly can.
Yeah, we're trying to prevent even one from happening, right? And a lot more animals too, by the way. They're stuck in cars and they unfortunately succumb to the heat injuries as well.